I'm better with older dates than I am newer.
I can't remember when these came out anymore. It's so hard for me now.
Like, I can differentiate between 1989 and 1990, but like 2015 and 2016.
Ever since 2001, it's been all the same
Wait a
stuff.
second. Was it 15 or 16?
But I can be like, oh, no, yes, older stuff. I can be like, no, that was 76 when that one came out.
Yeah, that was October.
But now these new ones, when we were looking these up, I was like, that's that old? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of Back to the Podcast with your host, Justin Neal, and I am Chris Lawler. And of course, we're here to talk about everything past, present, and future about TV and film. I know that we're looking forward to this conversation because we just love older movies and stuff, but whatever happened in just the last few years, we still had some amazing stuff to talk about. So we want to take a small trip down, just a brief look back at all the movies in the 2010s that were amazing and maybe not so popular.
Hidden gems.
Not underrated.
Yeah, it's not really underrated, just hidden gems because the decade was
just hidden. Okay.
So overwhelmingly consumed with Marvel and superheroes.
A little bit, yeah.
And they had their time, and that's, you know.
Those were the tentpoles, yeah.
That is what it is.
But there was still good cinema out.
But there were other things coming out, and we can talk about some of those things, and we're going to.
Yeah, we are,
So just start us off, man. Like, what's a hidden gem from that time that you think of?
Well, actually, I don't know if you guys know, but we picked up a sponsor for this season, and I'm really excited to talk about them. So this is great news because they're an online e-commerce store, and they're also going to start carrying merchandise for us. So I think we're going to start out with some very simple things, but that way you guys can help support the channel that you've helped grow this last year. We're really looking forward to season 2. And, you know, like I said, before we dive into today's episode, it's a big shout out to this new sponsor, Cosplay Curiosities. They're an amazing e-commerce store created by cosplayers for cosplayers, offering a unique range of apparel to keep your cosplay spirit alive, even when you're not in your costume. Whether you're between conventions or just taking a break from cosplaying, their collection is perfect for representing your passion. And here's a treat. Visit cosplaycuriosities.com and use the code BTTP at the checkout for an extra 20% off your purchase. Again, that's cosplaycuriosities.com, and the discount code is BTTP for 20% off. And now we can get started with the show. So definitely check that. And of course, if you like the show, don't ever hesitate to subscribe.
Should under hesitate.
What?
You said don't over hesitate, and I said yes, you should under hesitate.
You threw me off. I was really on a roll there. I didn't even really know what I was saying. I just sort of embodied like any other like old radio announcer. And so thanks for keeping me in track there. But now we can definitely dive into it and take a look back. There are so many great movies that I came across, but I wanted to talk about definitely my favorites. And I know that we are going to have very contrasting lists.
Oh, like sure. We always do.
So you want to get it started? You want to go all the way back? What, 2011, I think is where we were going to kick this off
at? Do we want to go in that sort of?
Might as well. Let's work up to the newer stuff, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I have 2 from 2011. Actually, I have a few from 2011, which is interesting.
Well, just start with one.
This one truly is a hidden gem, and it's a Richard Linklater movie that most of us know from Dazed and Confused and other things.
Okay.
But it's called Bernie with Jack Black and Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
And it takes place in Texas, and it's based on a true story.
Yes.
About this man, Bernie Teed, well-respected, known man in the community. He befriends a rich widow played by Shirley MacLaine and ends up murdering her.
Yeah, and stuffing her in a freezer.
But he was like the nicest person. That's what everyone always said, that Bernie was the nicest person.
I have actually seen this one.
It's a little movie.
It's quirky.
It's dry and it's slow. But it's interesting.
But Jack Black is really good in it.
And he's so good.
Like even the slow burn, at least there's energy to the journey you're on so that it doesn't feel that way. If I remember correctly, isn't it interjected with like
actual townspeople and their little like Texas isms?
And then in Central Texas, you got the People's Republic of Austin with a bunch of hairy-legged women and liberal fruitcakes. Of course, I left out the Panhandle, and a lot of people do. But
so it almost feels like a documentary, if you will. Yeah.
Well, it is a documentary in a lot of ways, but
it's just with a reenactment of
Matthew McConaughey shows up as the sheriff or the DA, something like that.
Number 8, Danny Buck's coming to get you first.
Anyway, Bernie
It's a good one.
is one that
I had forgot about that one.
And actually, when Jack Black and Kyle Gass of Tenacious D were on Hot Ones, and Kyle Gass was asked what his favorite performance of Jack Black was, he said,
"Well, I loved Bernie a lot. I think that was really some great performance."
Thank you. No way.
I remember thinking, like, that's right, Kyle Gass, I'm with you. Bernie's a great movie. Probably is his best performance. Anyway, that's a good one. Just kind of get the ball rolling with something small like that. What about you? What can you follow that with?
Mine, we've talked about it a lot, so I'm not even going to go over this too much unless you guys have never heard me talk about it. But Cabin in the Woods came out that year as well. I have talked about that movie ad nauseum and why I love it and why I think it's just such a treasure, and watch it almost every Halloween. It's one of the first ones to throw on. And that came out that year as well. So that would be one of my first start offs. But I've got so many more. But what?
I don't have a lot to say about it, but one that's very similar to that came out in 2010 is Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, yes.
Also a horror comedy.
Dude, yes.
Just a lot of fun.
Super enjoy that film in this house, yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to kind of counter that and be like, yeah, another good one.
We love Alan Tudyk, right? And then, but for me, I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name, but she played Cerie on 30 Rock, and I'm such a huge 30 Rock fan.
Katrina Bowden.
Look at you on top of things. I love it, man. You're on fire today. Keep that up.
Not like last week.
Not like last episode. People had to come save you in that last one. You saved yourself before the end, actually.
I did, but...
Oh, man, that's funny. So great. Yeah, no, Tucker and Dale, I know we took a little trip back, but then moving forward, you got some more for me?
Well, actually, from 2011, I want to mention something.
You got more? Okay.
That almost no one's seen. It got almost totally ignored, and it's done by Roland Emmerich, who we know as like the blockbuster man of like Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, I just watched that again recently.
Anyway, that's what he's kind of known for. But in 2011, he brought out a movie called Anonymous. And most people wouldn't know about it. I know about it because I'm a Brit Lit nerd. And one of my classes...
Did he put it out anonymously?
Yeah, right.
Because I don't remember this one.
And it's a Shakespeare thing. That's why most people don't know about it, because there's long been a theory that the person who was actually William Shakespeare was not the person who wrote those plays. He was an actor named Will Shakespeare, and there's, evidence to support this and blah, blah, blah. But there's no way, they say, that this man who came from this background named William Shakespeare could have written all this shit. It's just not possible. He wouldn't have been educated enough. There are so many different reasons why. And they think it was actually an educated person who at that time
used a pseudonym,
could not put their name on it because it was like taboo. Like the theater was a dirty profession.
I can't. That sounds like an awesome movie. I cannot believe I've not heard about this one.
So there's a theory that the Edward de Vere, who is the Earl of Oxford, he's played by... I don't even know the way to pronounce this man's name. I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. But he's Welsh.
Do it.
He's like Reeves Iphans.
Okay.
But anyway, he plays this person, Edward de Vere, who is said to have had a relationship with the Queen. So there's this like Elizabethan political plot going on. But he's also writing these plays and giving it to this actor to publish in his name.
That sounds awesome.
So the movie
Anonymous
is like, well, what if that's true?
That's so cool.
And I saw it because, I took a Shakespeare class in London. Like, I was actually one of those people back then, before the movie, who was like, maybe there's this theory that, he didn't actually write all that stuff. And then the movie came out and I'm like, yes, see, yes, it's
there
a
you
thing.
go. I'm actually everything.
It's a really, really good movie. I would say it's probably one of his best movies and no one saw it.
That's cool.
And most people don't even know it's Roland Emmerich. You know what I mean? It was one of those that just kind of got lost.
Yeah. Obviously he's known for all those big ones. So they probably were like, well, there's nothing big in here, so we can't really promote it with his name because people will think it's supposed to be that, and it's not.
And it's really well made.
So, okay, Anonymous.
What about you? What's next?
2012. I guess I'm going to move on and bring up Dread. Did you ever see it with Carl Urban?
No, but when I was doing research, that came up on a couple of lists, and you had mentioned it previously, and I noted, I was like, you know what? Lawler's been talking about that movie.
It's a very solid action movie, and what I really enjoy is, if you know nothing about it, it doesn't matter. Like, I love how it just starts it, introduces you to the world. A thing that I absolutely love about like movies is when they're introducing you to something a little bit bombastic, and they really just kind of give it to you, and they're like, these are the rules and this is the framework, instead of like over exposition like they do in some movies. They just like show it to you.
They cut to the chase.
Dredd starts off with a bang, great car chase and stuff, leads right into the plot. This happens because of this, and then this happens because of this.
Therefore this happens. Therefore this happens.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And then Karl Urban, lives up to the hype. The whole thing with Dredd is he doesn't take off the helmet, and that's one of the big things that
hard to do.
Fought against. He was like, I'm not doing that. But Karl Urban goes the entire movie without showing off his famous actor face. And I mean, once again, he's such a good enough actor that I didn't need that. God, he's so solid in that one. And he's going to be in the new Mortal Kombat movie as well. I can't wait to even see the charm that he brings to that. He's going to be playing... oh my God, I just drew a blank on all Mortal Kombat names. Johnny Cage, thank you.
Was I right?
He will be playing Johnny Cage. He was one of the people missing from the original, the new rebooted original Mortal Kombat movie, Johnny Cage. And Karl Urban does bring some credibility.
So Dredd, you've mentioned it before. You think it's just a good, like, it sticks the action landing, right?
Oh man, it's just good from beginning to end. And it's just fun. And it's a good rated R action movie. Yeah, I'm surprised you still haven't seen that one. It's, once again, one of those hidden gems. So you should check it out.
Okay, I have one to counter that with.
Go for it. Yeah, what do you got?
Which I feel like is a hidden gem because I don't know a lot of people who have seen it. Mm-hmm. And it is a R-rated action movie. And that is 2014's Fury with Brad Pitt.
Dude, I did miss that one.
It's a World War II tank movie.
That one came out, and I remember it was sort of like a sleeper hit, which is obviously why we're talking about it. And then as time has gone on, it's mentioned in so many lists of like, this movie is way better than it, it should have made more money at the box office and da-da-da-da-da. So I gotta check this one out then. I don't know why I missed it. I think it's just because of, at the time, maybe there was a bigger movie coming out. So I don't remember what happened with that release window, but Fury.
It's fucking intense.
Okay.
So I remember sitting there with like a rocks glass or something watching this movie, and by the end of it, I was like gray and shaken like,
wow,
holy shit.
That sounds impactful. So,
well, like Saving Private Ryan or something.
Yeah.
So that's what it was like in a fucking tank. Oh my God.
That sounds intense.
It's hardcore. So when he did Suicide Squad after that, and I actually saw Suicide Squad because I liked Fury.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Nah.
I'm sure it didn't live up to what Fury was then.
Fury was good. Harrowing realism. But really, really well done. It must have taken for fucking ever, even while it was happening, just to choreograph all the movements of these big ass tanks. And these things don't, work well. They don't play nice when you've got 30 of them driving around a field and you're trying to like keep things in focus. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like shooting Jaws on the water. Like nothing's on the water, like nothing sits still. But if you're trying to choreograph these huge tanks with multiple cameras and everything and keep everybody safe, but get to the, boom and realism, it must have been, a pretty intense process just making it.
That sounds awesome. I need to see if I can find that one on streaming then.
You should.
And check that out.
Yeah.
I love Saving Private Ryan, war movies and stuff. We had just rewatched Band of Brothers and stuff, which was so amazing. And then there's that new one coming out on Apple TV Plus that I talked about. That's about the World War II pilots and stuff. That looks just as amazing. I think it's going to be produced by Spielberg and Tom Hanks again. So it's almost like a third part in their World War II saga at this point.
But in the air.
Yeah, but in the air this time. And so that looks amazing. So Fury, cool. Right on.
Yeah, check out Fury. That was a hidden gem.
What year was that again? 2014?
I think it was 2014.
Yeah, we can jump around then.
I wrote it down. It is 2014.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to take a step backwards, man. And I mean, it was probably pretty popular, once again, to a niche crowd when it came out. And I'm sure it's grown in popularity. But horror movies are hard for me to be pleased by. And the Evil Dead remake was amazing. It was just so gory and fantastic. And I thought it was an incredible reimagining of the original movie, which was pretty campy when you remember back, and then they went and remade it and made it campier somehow. So I appreciated the really, really dark and edgy tone that they decided to take in that remake, and the amount of blood they used. It is gory. It was amazing. And when that girl starts peeling her face off, I lose it every time. I can't handle it. She goes in the bathroom. That scene, right? I'm so.
Oh, yeah. I've actually seen it twice.
Oh.
It's not my genre, but I've seen that one twice.
That's a Blu-ray for me, man.
It's pretty gross.
I'm going to still call that one a cult classic, a little bit of a hidden gem.
Okay.
You guys can argue with me in the comments if you want, if these are too famous of movies and stuff, and we should be digging deeper. But
fuck them.
I'm just gonna brush that one by because I think The Evil Dead's a pretty famous franchise. I think you guys are familiar with that. But if you haven't seen that one, that is a truly horrific movie. But we like to throw that one on around Halloween every year. So anything? Do you want to take a step back? You got anything else around 2013, or are you jumping forward?
Well, actually, I was just gonna kind of go not by year, but go with more of like theme. And like,
go for it.
The closest thing I got to a horror, is 2017's Mother from Darren Aronofsky.
I know that you like that one, and I didn't give it credibility because it got such mixed reviews. I'll call it mixed reviews because I know people did like it. So please enlighten me on it.
I don't know anybody who liked it except me.
Some people did praise it because it was of the art form and blah, 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 blah. But you called it a horror movie. Like, why?
You know what? I actually wrote this down when I was making notes. I think it is fucking hardcore, and he went all the way, and I love what they did. But it's the movie, when I recommend it to people, I give it a trigger warning.
Okay.
I say, like, just so you know, it goes all the way. It is not easy to watch.
I remember when it came out. I've seen the trailers and stuff. I
saw it on my birthday.
It's got that appeal. There's the intrigue and the fact that no one's ever spoiled anything about it because no one seems to understand it.
It's more of an exercise than, like an art house exercise than you would think of as a traditional like 3-act structure.
Okay.
With, a protagonist, antagonist, build, conflict, overcome. None of that.
Okay.
It's one location. No one has names. Nothing is explained. It's just
it just happens and goes.
Weird.
And it goes far.
And then it keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And it goes completely bonkers. And I remember sitting in the theater like laughing because I couldn't believe he was doing it. But I say, watcher, beware.
So not one that you can totally recommend, and this is exactly why this is still a hidden gem even to this day. Then.
Like, I totally get what he's doing.
You're keeping this so ambiguous. I don't even know what it is he's doing.
Like, where other people would have, like, bailed and found a softer landing, he was like, no, I'm just going to drive the car off the cliff.
He just went for it. I once again, I remember when those reviews were coming out, people just didn't get it.
There's not really anything to get, really. I think that's the point is people were
still got it greenlit somehow.
Well, because it's a small little indie movie. It takes place in one location, which they built as a set.
And just got a couple of big name actors to be in it. Yeah.
Anyway, Mother. So that's my gem.
Right on. Well, I mean, if we were just going to stick with some horror, man, I'm going to move around then on the year. But one of the most underrated, like, it's going to be another kind of obscure horror one, but that's what we're talking about. As Above, So Below. Did you ever see that one?
No. Break it down for me.
It's like a found footage one. And like they're going down to like make a documentary about the catacombs underneath the city in France.
Okay, that rings a bell.
They all have like psychological like trauma and stuff like that. And it's good. And there's so many good practical effects. It's such a great exploration of like what you can do with probably a lower budget, right? Some really cool camera effects and really like eerie atmosphere and stuff. As Above, So Below. Also hidden, but I feel underrated. I don't know enough people that want to include that one on their like top 30 scary movie lists and stuff. As Above, So Below, man, for sure. What did that was? 2013, 2014 on that one, I think?
Maybe you could help me remember. I saw one in the theater that was a lot better than I thought. It was a catacomb sort of thing, except they're going below like rock, like caving. And it's
the girls.
Yeah. What was that called?
Yeah. Descent? Isn't it
The
just simple as that?
Descent.
Descent. We got there.
There you go.
The Descent. I was there. But no, that one's good. And there's those creepy creatures. And like one of them makes it out of the hole. Almost same thing. As Above, So Below doesn't have scary creatures. It's more psychological. I think they're dealing with like past life trauma and stuff like that. There's so many theories and it's an ambiguous ending and stuff. So it's one of those things you get to kind of talk about at the end. So what's next?
One of the best comedies of that decade and is a hidden gem, even though it is a TV show now. And most people still even haven't seen the movie.
Oh, right.
And this is
I know where you're going.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
Love that movie.
It's on my list as well. One of my favorites.
I have not seen an episode of the TV show, but I have watched that movie multiple times.
You're really not doing yourself justice. The show really holds up. We were just rewatching season 1 recently. I'm telling you, you should really go and watch it.
Okay.
That show is a damn gem, dude.
Anyway, I love What We Do in the Shadows. I love mockumentaries.
How'd you get introduced to it then?
I think it just showed up.
That was more like a word of mouth.
Like I probably saw the trailer and was like, yes, a mockumentary.
Yeah.
This looks too funny. And then we watch it and it totally played.
Yeah.
Solid from start to finish. And of course, Taika
Waititi.
Waititi. I just want to say it right. That dude, talk about how talented he has become.
Obviously.
I also saw some of his other stuff. Jojo Rabbit. Did you ever see his movie?
I have yet to see that one. It's been on the list for a while. Like, I hate that that's on my list of shame because I really want to see that. Sam Rockwell looks amazing in that. And of course, Taika.
He's a great humorist.
Oh, yeah. And I heard the kids in that movie were just so great as well and really landed their roles. Yeah. That's on the list of shame for sure.
But that's what put him on my radar. I had heard of, what is it, Flight of the Conchords, which is where
I was a huge fan of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't come from that direction.
I did. Yeah. That's actually, I think, what introduced me to the movie.
Right.
It was New Year's Eve. I'll never forget that. I was hanging with the boys and we were taking some drinks and having a good time. And for some reason, HBO was on in the background and they were having a Flight of the Conchords marathon.
Interesting.
And I immediately fell in love with the humor. So I got to see it from episode 1 on.
Okay.
We own it on DVD and stuff, get to watch that. And apparently that's coming back. They've been rumoring they're coming back. And of course, now Taika's got that new show where they're the pirates.
I haven't watched Our Flag.
Yeah, Our Flag Means Death. That's it. Yeah. And I hear that.
Actually, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, write it down.
I need to watch that.
Okay. Well, then I've got one that kind of fits called Eddie the Eagle with Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton. Did you ever see that one, Eddie the Eagle?
I've never even heard of that.
This one came out, 2015 is what it says on here.
Right.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman is amazing in this. And that's the only reason I remember is he was doing a little bit of press at the time. And this is when him and Ryan Reynolds were doing a lot of their little rivalry. And so I had heard him talk about it, but I was like, Eddie the Eagle, what a weird name. Turns out that's just the nickname of the guy. It's a biopic. It's about this guy named Michael Edwards, who became the first Briton to complete an Olympic ski jumping despite having little skill and facing ridicule. So once again, all he really wanted to do was go to the Olympics. And so he tried out for like the ski team and he was on the Olympic ski team and he was so excited. And of course, Britain's not really known for their,
winter sports.
Yeah. And so he found like a loophole that they haven't had a ski jumper in a long while. And all he had to do is have like a team of one and a coach.
And Hugh Jackman's the coach. Got it.
And Hugh Jackman's the retired coach who's grizzled and drinks and like hates everything kind of deal. It's so good.
Okay.
And then Taron Egerton really embodies this character and stuff.
He was just in Tetris.
Exactly. And, he gets himself all beat up in this one. And just, it's one of those like
nice.
Heart of Gold kind of movies and everything.
Rudy.
If I can't even remember.
Rudy.
And it's super heartwarming.
Rudy.
And
Rudy.
very rude. It's got more heartwarming than it is comedy, but the comedy that is in there is solid.
Yeah, I got you.
I remember laughing my ass off.
Right on.
Hugh Jackman was great. Got some heart. It's a lot of fun. Eddie the fucking Eagle, man.
Eddie the Eagle. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to go a little bit. It is heavier, but I want to say it because most people really didn't see it. And that is Danny Boyle's Train Spotting 2.
I did miss that because that went to streaming, right?
Technically, it's called T2 Train Spotting.
Yeah, which I thought was a weird title.
I saw an interview. This is hilarious. You'll love this.
Good.
So the reason that they called it T2 Train Spotting is that they loved the idea that the guys in the movie would want it to be called T2 because it would piss James Cameron off. And it's not licensed because technically Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the title of that movie, not T2. Right. And so they kind of like, we're going to snag it because it'll piss James Cameron off, which is going with the attitude of the characters in this movie. And they were able to pull it off. That's how they got the title.
That's awesome. I love the original Train Spotting, so I really should have seen this one.
And I think you'll like it. You know what this one's about?
Reconciliation, I'm assuming?
It's about regret.
Okay, that makes more sense, yeah.
It's been 20 years since it came out in the same way. It's been 20 years. So to me, like, I wouldn't recommend that movie to anyone who didn't love the original at that time and have aged as well. Like, it's about the regret of like looking back at your younger self and the stupid shit you did.
Oh, the stupid shit I did, right?
That's what it's about, but it's so good.
And they got the whole cast back, if I remember correctly, right? Like it's the whole gang.
Well, and Ewan McGregor and Danny Boyle had not worked together since A Life Less Ordinary.
Right. They reconciled. Yep. We're all tired of sequels coming back. I heard that one was done really well. So I got it. Another one on my list of shame, man. You're just piling it up on me today, man.
It hit me hard, not in a depressing way, but I left thinking like, man, they did well with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I'm glad that they
I bet I'll relate to that.
did that the way they did that. That was a proper 20 years after movie. I like that movie a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of James Cameron, not that they were totally doing that, but Catherine Bigelow's got a movie on this list.
Zero Dark 30?
No, that one's obviously super popular. She did this other one called Detroit with John Boyega and Anthony Mackie, Will Poulter.
I haven't seen it.
That's a hard watch, man. But once again, based on true events.
I feel like you mentioned that in one of our first.
Have I mentioned that one before? I wouldn't be surprised.
In one of our very first episodes, just because I think we were talking about John Boyega and like Attack the Block or something like that.
Something, yeah. Detroit was one of those movies
That's another one. Attack the Block would be a hidden gem of the.
Attack the Block, yeah, definitely. I mean, most people I think are familiar with the name, but I don't think as many people have seen that one with Nick Frost and Boyega.
I've actually seen it.
I've seen it as well.
I've mentioned it on here.
It's definitely a very British sci-fi-ish
action movie. It's like if you liked Hot Fuzz.
I struggle to understand them because they're so British.
The guy who wrote and directed it is in the same crew as Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. Like they're all kind of the same sort of people.
That way, Nick Frost was there.
Yeah. They're all boys. So it's definitely of the same sort of style. John Boyega is fantastic. That was the first thing I saw him in.
Yeah.
Before Star Wars, you know.
I think Star Wars was the first thing. I think I had seen that and then seen Attack the Block like almost at the same time. So, but he's an amazing talent, and Detroit was another good one.
Oh yeah, so Detroit. Tell me, sorry about that for derailing that, but Detroit.
Oh no, you're fine. What were you about to say?
I know what it's about, but you think I should?
Yeah,
you definitely recommend that one.
I mean, you know, it's a good movie. It's well put together. It's a hard watch. That's all I gotta say, man. It's a very tense and powerful,
heart-wrenching,
very accurate historical drama about this. Yeah, it's all about this one night at this hotel and how things just go
from bad to worse,
really wrong for a bunch of people, man. And it's just shocking, the level of brutality and shit. And it's just it's well produced, well directed, well acted. You know what I mean? It's just well, like you always like to put it, like it's just solid through and through. So definitely Detroit, okay. John Boyega and like Will Poulter once again proving his chops in that one. But yeah, that one's pretty intense, and I think that one a little snuck through the cracks a little bit.
Okay.
So
yeah. I feel you on that one.
You got something in that light, or something that came out? What was that? 2016.
Well, here's one. I want to gauge your opinion on this. I love this movie, but it also gives me a chance to bring up another point just to get it out there. So 2011's Midnight in Paris with Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams and many other people. That is a Woody Allen movie. Now, I was thinking about this when this came up because I love that movie, and there's a couple of others of his that I love, but I think it's a good chance to broach the topic of that dude is problematic. If you know anything about it, you know what you know what I mean?
Of course, this is his past. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those which
he's got a checkered past.
A lot of people have,
written him off.
Yeah. And think that we shouldn't be discussing him or someone like that at all.
I just don't think he makes movies that I enjoy. So that's the only thing I've over.
That's one opinion. But anyway, just the idea of problematic people. It's like the separation of art from artist.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Kevin Spacey. He had all of those movies, all of these hits. And then one day we find out something about his past. And it's like, does that discredit all the movies that he's made? For me, it's kind of hard to watch him. I'm not going to lie. Like, me and the wife have struggled a little bit.
It does make a difference. American Beauty is one of my favorite movies, and I tried to put it on, and it was like, I can't watch this now.
I'm always surprised what we throw on and he shows up in. like, that's the other thing. Like, we were watching a movie and we were like, Jesus, Kevin Spacey's in this as well. He just shows up and stuff.
Yeah, he was in a lot in the 90s.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
I just want to say that we're going to talk about a lot of people and a lot of work by people who have done really bad things.
Yeah.
If you have ever had an art history class in your life, you have studied great art by really bad people. And so just the idea of like, I love Midnight in Paris, but you know, Woody Allen's
I've never seen it though.
Very questionable.
Yeah, he is. And there's plenty of people. I mean, once again, we're going to bring up somebody new here very soon with the whole Jonathan Majors thing. You know, he was found guilty recently, and then Marvel immediately dropped him from the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe now. And that's a big deal. And it's like, but he was doing so much good work and everyone was praising him and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. Is there a separation between?
Yeah, or is there time? I think time probably has a lot to do with the ability to separate it from the work. Like, you're not worried about 18th century Dutch painters. You know what I mean? Like, their home life.
This stuff is more present in our memories, so that's why it's afflicting us. But with separation of time, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that's just something I want to say. Like, you know, we're probably going to talk about problematic people, or you know, I'll try to make a point of it if I can, if it's something that's applicable.
Was that a hidden movie then? This Midnight in Paris?
Midnight in Paris.
Because I know of it, but I've definitely never seen it. I mean, once again, Woody Allen probably would hate it.
But it's interesting. What happens is he's traveling with his fiance. Owen Wilson is traveling with his fiance, Rachel McAdams, and her parents on a trip, and they're in Paris. And he likes to walk around at night because he's a writer. And so he wants to, you know, just walk around Paris at night. It's kind of romantic, that idea. And at midnight one night, this vintage Peugeot pulls up, and like these people in vintage dress start talking to him, and they kind of convince him to like, hey, come in the car, come with us, we have champagne. And he's like, well, all right, you know, in his very Owen Wilson
way.
Yeah, okay. So he goes, and he spends the night back in time in
interesting. All right.
The Roaring Twenties in Paris, when there was a bunch of American expats. So he talks to Hemingway, and F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda Fitzgerald are there.
Interesting.
Tom Hiddleston plays F. Scott Fitzgerald.
That actually doesn't sound that uninteresting. Actually, it sounds like a kind of a fun movie. I thought it was a romantic kind of like stilted Woody Allen movie, you know?
But as I was looking through the list, I was like, this movie's so good, but you know what? Woody Allen, like, fuck, who else? Like, this is going to be a thing.
You know what? I'm going to throw a shocker at you that made this list.
Okay.
Like a real shocker. I think.
A real shocker.
Really. This is going to be so weird. I can't believe this even made it on my list. Power Rangers, the one that they made back
with Elizabeth Banks?
Yeah, dude, that one actually wasn't half bad. If you erased all the stupid history of that TV show and this movie just came out, I probably would have had fun with it. And I still had fun with it. I hate Power Rangers. I remember being an 8-year-old when that show was coming out, and I watched the first episode and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I hated that show.
I hated it. I made fun of anyone that like liked it. I was like, I can't believe you're into that. But then this movie came out. I was up really late. It was like one of the newest things out. And I was like, if I hate this, I'll turn it off in 5 minutes. But the young actors that they got in that were very fun. They had great energy on there. The fact that they got Bryan Cranston to be Zardon or whatever his name is in that. And then I was really curious to see how Elizabeth Banks was as a villain. And she was really fun as a villain. That's it. Sometimes you like to turn off your brain and watch dumb fun stuff. And this is just like a different version of Pacific Rim to me. Like, it was just giant things and they have their big little fight at the end. But if I didn't know anything about Power Rangers and this just showed up one day, I would have been like, you know, that's a fun 7 out of 10 movie right there.
Well, holy shit, I have nothing to counter against that.
And on that bombshell,
it is time to end this episode. I got nothing on that.
All right, well then that wraps it up from today, man. I mean, it was fun just always going back and looking at movies. I mean, once again, the last few decades have seemed like a little bit of a blur, but there are so many good movies in there. And now, of course, I've got more movies to add to my list of shame. Thanks to you. I appreciate that.
That's why we're here.
Please join us in the conversation. Drop in the comments below what hidden gems in the last 10 years or so. Let us know what we should be watching, what we didn't touch on. And of course, hopefully we enlightened you on some fun new favorites that you can go check out yourself. We're going to be back with some more fun stuff this year. Season 2 is taking off. Don't forget to check out Hollywood Highlights on Friday.
We're now on Instagram.
Oh yeah, we did. That's right.
BTTP Show, and we're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at BTTP Show, and we're also on TikTok, right?
TikTok now. Yep. So we're trying to step up that game and stuff like that. But of course,
widening the net. So you'll see more.
We wouldn't be
content
anywhere without your support, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, of course, share it with your friends and family, whoever you know enjoys movies and stuff like that. And the great news is, like I said, we did get a sponsor this year. They are going to be carrying some merchandise from us. So check out the website, cosplaycuriosities.com. We're going to have some new merch up there. I think we're going to start with some t-shirts and stuff, but that's a way that you guys can show your love and support for the channel, man. We've been growing. We're loving bringing you more content. And of course, you guys showing that love and support back to us keeps us making more fun stuff. So as we wrap up, check out that website. Don't forget to use the code BTTP for a 20% discount on your purchase when you go to cosplaycuriosities.com. BTTP, all uppercase, 20% off. It's a great deal. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.